The year was 2025, and Earth had reached its breaking point. The skies above were heavy with smog, rivers ran thick with waste, and forests that once stood tall now lay barren and charred. Humanity's greed and neglect had pushed the planet to the brink of collapse. Wars raged across continents, fueled by hunger, fear, and desperation. Governments argued over who was to blame while ignoring the cries of their people. It seemed as though humanity had lost its way entirely. Deep within a quiet observatory nestled in the mountains of Chile, Dr. Elena Vasquez sat alone in front of her computer screen. Her dark hair was tied back into a loose ponytail, and her tired eyes reflected the glow of countless lines of data scrolling across the monitor. She wasn't thinking about the chaos outside. She never did when she worked. For years, Elena had dedicated herself to studying the stars, searching for answers far beyond the troubles of Earth. Tonight, however, something strange had caught her attention. It started with a faint signal, a series of pulses coming from deep space. At first, Elena thought it might be interference, perhaps caused by solar flares or equipment malfunction. But as she analyzed the pattern more closely, she realized it was unlike anything she'd ever encountered before. The signal wasn't random noise. It carried structure, rhythm, and purpose. Someone or something was trying to communicate. Elena leaned forward in her chair, her heart pounding with excitement. This could be it, she whispered to herself. After decades of listening to silence, humanity might finally have proof that they weren't alone in the universe. She quickly flagged the discovery for further analysis, alerting her colleagues at the Global Space Research Initiative, GSRI. Within hours, teams of scientists around the world were brought together to decode the mysterious transmission. As they pieced the fragments together, the message became clearer and more unsettling. "We are coming." Those three chilling words sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Was this some kind of warning? A threat? Or simply an announcement? No one knew for sure, but one thing was certain. Whoever or whatever had sent the message was on its way to Earth. News of the transmission spread like wildfire. Social media platforms exploded with speculation, panic, and conspiracy theories. Some claimed it was a hoax designed to distract people from Earth's problems. Others believed it was divine intervention, a sign that humanity was being judged for its sins. Governments scrambled to respond, holding emergency meetings behind closed doors, while public statements urged calm. But not everyone was convinced the signal came from a single alien species. Further analysis revealed layers of complexity hidden within the message. Different languages, or what appeared to be languages, were woven together, suggesting cooperation among multiple extraterrestrial civilizations. They called themselves the Galactic Concordance, a coalition united by shared values and goals. And according to the message, those goals included dealing with Earth. Dr. Vasquez found herself at the center of the storm. With her expertise in astrophysics and linguistics, she was asked to lead the team tasked with deciphering the rest of the transmission. What they uncovered next made her blood run cold. The message went on to explain why the Galactic Concordance had taken notice of Earth. According to the text, humanity had been under observation for centuries. Every conflict, every act of violence, every instance of environmental destruction had been carefully documented. The conclusion? Humanity had proven itself incapable of coexisting peacefully, not just with each other, but with the planet itself. You have squandered your resources, poisoned your air, and waged endless wars, the message stated. You have shown no regard for life, only for power and greed. We gave you time to change, but you chose this path instead. Now face what comes next. The implications were devastating. This wasn't just a visit from curious explorers or benevolent beings offering help. The Galactic Concordance viewed humanity as a failure, an experiment gone wrong. Their arrival would not bring salvation, but judgment. As the days passed, strange phenomena began occurring all over the globe. Massive storms swept through cities without warning, leveling buildings and displacing millions. Magnetic anomalies disrupted power grids, plunging entire regions into darkness. Unidentified objects streaked across the skies, leaving trails of fire in their wake. People reported seeing flashes of light in the distance, followed by eerie silence. Fear gripped the population, and governments struggled to maintain order. In response, the United Nations convened an emergency summit to discuss how to prepare for the unknown threat. Tensions ran high as nations argued over the best course of action. Some advocated for military mobilization, believing that humanity should fight back against the invaders. Others pushed for diplomacy, insisting that communication could prevent disaster. Amidst the chaos, a new global council was formed, bringing together leaders from science, politics, and defense. Dr. Vasquez was appointed as its head, tasked with finding a solution before it was too late. Elena knew the odds were stacked against them. Even if humanity managed to mount a defense, how could they possibly stand up to advanced alien technology? And even if they tried diplomacy, what guarantee did they have that the Galactic Concordance would listen? Still, she refused to give up hope. There had to be a way to prove to these beings that humanity was worth saving, that despite its flaws, there was still potential for growth and redemption. Late one night, as she pored over the latest data, Elena discovered something unexpected. Buried deep within the transmission were fragments of information that hinted at Earth's ancient past. References to long-forgotten civilizations, images of structures that bore resemblance to ruins scattered across the globe, and mentions of experiments involving primitive life forms. It was as though Earth had once been part of a larger interstellar community, but something had gone terribly wrong. Her hands trembled as she pieced the puzzle together. Could it be true? Had humanity's origins been influenced by alien intervention? If so, then perhaps the Galactic Concordance's judgment wasn't entirely unjustified. Maybe humanity really had failed to live up to expectations. But if that was the case, then maybe there was also a chance to make things right. With renewed determination, Elena presented her findings to the Global Council. She argued that understanding humanity's connection to the galaxy could provide leverage in negotiations with the Concordance. Perhaps if they could show that they were willing to learn from their mistakes, the aliens might reconsider their decision. Not everyone agreed with her approach. A faction within the council, led by General Marcus Kane, believed that preparing for war was the only viable option. Kane argued that relying on diplomacy was naive and dangerous, especially given the hostile tone of the initial message. He revealed that his team had been secretly developing Project Phoenix, a top-secret initiative aimed at creating weapons powered by experimental quantum energy. While risky, these weapons had the potential to level the playing field against the invaders. Caught between two opposing strategies, Elena faced an impossible choice. Should she trust in the power of words and seek peaceful resolution, or side with those who believed humanity's survival depended on brute force? Time was running out, and the weight of the decision rested squarely on her shoulders. Meanwhile, the alien fleet drew closer with each passing day. Satellites tracked their progress as they moved steadily toward Earth, their ships blotting out the stars like a swarm of locusts. Panic gripped the world as news outlets broadcast live updates of the approaching armada. Cities emptied as people fled to rural areas, seeking safety in numbers. Markets crashed, economies collapsed, and society teetered on the brink of total breakdown. Yet amidst the chaos, small acts of courage and kindness began to emerge. Strangers helped one another evacuate flooded towns. Volunteers distributed food and supplies to those in need. Artists painted murals of hope on crumbling walls, reminding everyone that even in darkness, there was still beauty to be found. These moments of humanity gave Elena strength, reinforcing her belief that people were capable of change, if only given the opportunity. As the final days ticked away, Elena worked tirelessly to refine her plan. She coordinated with engineers to modify existing satellites into a network capable of transmitting Earth's story directly to the concordance. Music, art, literature, scientific discoveries, all the things that made humanity unique would be compiled into a digital archive, showcasing both the good and the bad. It was a gamble, but it was all they had left. On the eve of the fleet's arrival, Elena stood on the balcony of the GSRI headquarters, staring up at the sky. The stars twinkled faintly through the haze of pollution, oblivious to the turmoil below. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. Whatever happens, she murmured to herself, we'll face it together. And with that, she turned back inside, ready to confront the unknown. 6 months had passed since the first signal from space reached Earth, and the planet was beginning to feel the full weight of what was coming. The strange occurrences that had started as isolated incidents, massive storms, magnetic anomalies, and sightings of unidentified objects in the sky had now escalated into a global crisis. Entire cities were left without power for days at a time. Crops failed due to unpredictable weather patterns, and oceans churned with unnatural ferocity. It became clear that these events weren't random. They were deliberate acts orchestrated by the approaching alien fleet. Humanity was being tested, probed, and destabilized before the final confrontation. Dr. Elena Vasquez spent every waking moment working alongside her team at the Global Space Research Initiative, GSRI. They had managed to decode more fragments of the alien transmission, piecing together a grim picture of humanity's fate. The Galactic Concordance viewed Earth not just as a failed experiment, but as a danger to the galaxy if left unchecked. Their message was chillingly clear. You chose this path. Now face what comes next. But buried within those words were hints of something deeper, something that hinted at humanity's forgotten past. Late one night, while analyzing a particularly dense section of the transmission, Elena stumbled upon a revelation that sent shivers down her spine. Hidden within the data were references to an ancient civilization, one that predated recorded human history. These beings, whoever they were, had once interacted with early humans, guiding their evolution and shaping their development. According to the fragmented records, humanity's rapid rise as a species wasn't entirely natural. It had been artificially accelerated by advanced alien technology. But there was a catch. This acceleration came with risks. The aliens who intervened saw humans as volatile creatures prone to destruction. They feared that giving humanity too much power too quickly would lead to catastrophe, and they were right. Over time, humanity proved unable to control its own impulses, leading to environmental degradation, endless wars, and societal collapse. As punishment, or perhaps out of self-preservation, the aliens isolated Earth, severing all contact and leaving humanity to fend for itself. Elena stared at the screen, her mind racing. If what she was reading was true, then humanity's current predicament wasn't just about judgment. It was about accountability. The Galactic Concordance wasn't merely punishing Earth for its failures. It was preventing a potential threat from spreading beyond the planet's borders. To them, humanity represented a virus, a force of chaos, that could infect the galaxy if allowed to grow unchecked. She shared her findings with the Global Council, hoping it might shed light on how to approach the impending confrontation. Some members listened intently, nodding along as she explained the implications of her discovery. Others dismissed her theory as speculation, arguing that focusing on survival should take priority over philosophical debates. General Marcus Kane, leader of the military faction, scoffed openly at her presentation. "We don't have time for fairy tales. he snapped during one heated meeting. Whether we're some alien science project or not doesn't change the fact that they're coming to kill us. Our only chance is to fight back. Kane's stance had grown increasingly aggressive in recent weeks. Under his leadership, Project Phoenix, the secret initiative to develop quantum-powered weapons, had made significant progress. Prototypes of energy cannons and defensive shields had been successfully tested, though at great cost. Activating such technology on a large scale risked destabilizing Earth's already fragile environment, potentially causing earthquakes, tsunamis, or worse. Despite these dangers, Kane pushed forward, convinced that humanity's survival depended on having the means to defend itself. Elena disagreed. She believed that brute force alone wouldn't save them. Even if Project Phoenix succeeded in repelling the invaders temporarily, it wouldn't address the root cause of the problem: humanity's inability to coexist peacefully. What the Galactic Concordance wanted was proof that humanity could change, that it deserved another chance. And that meant finding a way to communicate directly with the alien coalition. Her plan was risky, but it offered a glimmer of hope. Using Earth's remaining satellites and orbital infrastructure, she proposed creating a neural network capable of interfacing with the Concordance's consciousness. By uploading fragments of human history, the good and the bad, she hoped to appeal to their sense of justice. She envisioned showing the moments of creativity, compassion, and resilience alongside the darker chapters of war, greed, and destruction. Her goal was simple yet monumental: to convince the aliens that humanity wasn't beyond redemption. The idea divided the council. Supporters argued that diplomacy was the only viable option, pointing out that humanity stood no chance in a direct confrontation with superior alien technology. Critics, however, saw it as naive and reckless. They claimed that attempting to reason with the Concordance would waste valuable time and resources better spent preparing for war. In the end, Elena secured just enough support to move forward with her plan. Though tensions between the two factions continued to simmer. As work on the neural network progressed, the alien fleet drew closer. Satellites captured images of their ships, massive, sleek vessels that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Their design suggested incredible technological prowess, far beyond anything Earth could match. Reports indicated that the fleet was deploying smaller scout ships to probe Earth's defenses, testing its readiness for the inevitable invasion. Each encounter left behind trails of destruction, further fueling public panic. In response, rogue elements within Earth's military began taking matters into their own hands. Unauthorized attacks on the scout ships resulted in catastrophic consequences. One such strike triggered a chain reaction that caused a massive electromagnetic pulse, disabling communication networks across North America. Cities plunged into darkness, hospitals struggled to keep life support systems running, and emergency services collapsed under the strain. The incident served as a stark reminder of humanity's limitations and the potential cost of recklessness. Amidst the chaos, Elena pressed on with her preparations. She worked tirelessly with engineers and programmers to refine the neural network, ensuring it could withstand any interference from the alien fleet. Every day brought new challenges, from technical glitches to political resistance, but she refused to give up. For her, this wasn't just about saving humanity. It was about proving that people were capable of rising above their flaws when faced with extinction. One evening, as she reviewed the final stages of the project, Elena received a message from the GSRI communications team. Another transmission had been detected, a live broadcast from the Concordance. Unlike the previous messages, this one was directed specifically at Earth. Its tone was colder, more urgent. "You have ignored our warnings," the voice declared. "Your actions confirm our suspicions. You are incapable of change. Prepare yourselves." The announcement sent shockwaves through the council. Panic spread like wildfire as governments scrambled to reassure their citizens. Some nations declared martial law, while others urged calm and cooperation. The divide between those advocating for peace and those pushing for war grew wider than ever. Despite the mounting pressure, Elena remained focused. She knew that the success of her plan hinged on timing. The neural network needed to be activated at precisely the right moment when the alien fleet entered Earth's orbit. Any earlier, and the signal might not reach them. Any later, and it could be too late. On the eve of activation, Elena gathered her closest colleagues in the control room of the GSRI headquarters. Together, they monitored the fleet's progress, watching as hundreds of ships descended toward Earth like a swarm of locusts. The tension in the room was palpable, each person silently bracing themselves for what lay ahead. Finally, the moment arrived. With a deep breath, Elena gave the order to initiate the neural network. A surge of energy coursed through the system, connecting Earth's satellites to the alien fleet's central hub. For a brief instant, everything went silent. Then, the response came not in words, but in images, sounds, and emotions flooding directly into the minds of those present. It was overwhelming, disorienting, and strangely beautiful. Through the connection, Elena glimpsed the vastness of the galaxy, the complexity of the Concordance's society, and the depth of their disappointment with humanity. Yet amidst the despair, she also sensed hesitation, a flicker of doubt. "They're listening," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "They're actually listening." For the first time since the signal arrived, there was hope, not certainty, but hope. The battle for humanity's future was far from over, but Elena knew they had taken the first step toward redemption. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. 1 year had passed since the first signal from space reached Earth, and the planet was now on the brink of annihilation. The alien fleet loomed large in the sky, surrounding Earth like a swarm of stars that refused to fade. Every corner of the globe watched in awe and terror as the massive ships blocked out the sun, casting eerie shadows over cities and oceans. Humanity's fate hung by a thread, and no one knew what would happen next. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood aboard the ISS-2, humanity's last functioning space station. It floated silently above the chaos below, serving as both a refuge and a command center for those trying to make sense of the situation. Elena had spent months preparing for this moment, refining the neural network she hoped would bridge the gap between humanity and the Galactic Concordance. But as she gazed out at the alien armada through the station's thick glass windows, doubt crept into her mind. Could anything truly stop them? The Concordance wasted no time making its presence known. A live holographic image appeared simultaneously across every screen, device, and communication channel on Earth. The figure was immense, towering over landscapes and skylines alike. Its form shimmered with light, shifting between shapes too complex for human eyes to fully comprehend. This was the Arbiter, a representative of the Coalition, tasked with delivering their final verdict. Its voice echoed with an otherworldly resonance, deep and cold, yet strangely calm. "Your time ends now," it declared. "Surrender or perish." The words sent shockwaves through the world. Chaos erupted almost instantly. Some people fell to their knees in despair, praying for salvation they didn't believe would come. Others took up arms, determined to fight until their last breath. Cities burned as riots broke out, fueled by fear, anger, and desperation. Governments collapsed under the weight of panic, leaving millions without guidance or protection. Amidst the madness, Elena remained focused. She couldn't afford to lose hope, not when so much depended on her actions. From her position aboard the ISS-2, she attempted to establish direct contact with the Arbiter. Her goal was simple: to appeal to whatever sense of morality the Concordance might possess. She wanted to show them that despite humanity's flaws, There was still beauty, potential, and worth in preserving life on Earth. Using the neural network, Elena initiated a connection. Data streamed outward from the station, carrying fragments of human history, the good and the bad. Art, music, science, love, war, destruction, all of it flowed toward the Arbiter, painting a picture of humanity in its entirety. At first, there was no response. The alien fleet remained motionless, its ships hovering ominously in orbit. Then, something changed. The Arbiter's holographic form flickered, and its voice returned, quieter this time, but no less chilling. "You ask us to reconsider your fate," it said. "Yet you fail to understand why we are here." Elena swallowed hard, her fingers trembling as she typed out a response. "We know we've made mistakes," she replied, her message transmitted directly into the neural link. "But we're capable of change. Give us another chance, and we'll prove it." The Arbiter paused, as if considering her words. Then it spoke again, revealing a truth that struck Elena like a thunderclap. "Your existence poses a threat not just to yourselves, but to the galaxy. Your unchecked aggression, your inability to coexist peacefully, even within your own species, suggests a pattern that cannot be ignored. If left unchecked, you will spread this pattern beyond your planet, endangering countless others." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't about punishment. It was about prevention. The Concordance feared humanity's potential to become a galactic menace. To them, eradicating Earth wasn't cruelty, it was necessity. Before Elena could respond, alarms blared throughout the ISS-2. On the monitors, she saw flashes of light erupting from several alien ships. They were deploying weapons, massive beams of energy that rained down on Earth's surface, targeting key locations. Military bases, power plants, and communication hubs crumbled under the assault. Entire cities were reduced to rubble in seconds. The devastation was unimaginable. Back on Earth, General Marcus Kane sprang into action. Ignoring Elena's pleas for restraint, he ordered the activation of Project Phoenix. Across the globe, experimental quantum cannons fired beams of energy upward, striking back at the alien fleet. For a brief moment, it seemed to work. Several smaller scout ships exploded in bursts of flame, sending debris spiraling toward the atmosphere. But the victory was short-lived. The Concordance retaliated with overwhelming force. Their ships unleashed waves of energy that destabilized Earth's magnetic field, causing earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. Billions perished in the ensuing chaos, and the planet teetered on the edge of total collapse. Elena watched in horror as the battle unfolded. Her worst fears had been realized. Humanity's refusal to unite behind a single strategy had led to catastrophic consequences. While Kane's forces fought valiantly, their efforts only provoked greater retaliation from the Concordance. The neural network, the one tool that might have saved them, was rendered useless as the electromagnetic interference disrupted its connection. Desperate, Elena tried to re-establish contact with the Arbiter. Through fragmented transmissions, she managed to send a final plea. "If you destroy us, you'll become what you fear most," she argued. "Isn't killing an entire species just another form of violence? Isn't that what you're accusing us of?" For a long moment, there was silence. Then, unexpectedly, the Arbiter responded. "Perhaps you are right," it admitted. "But the decision is not mine alone to make." Confusion rippled through Elena's mind. What did that mean? Was the Arbiter suggesting there was division within the Concordance itself? Before she could ask, the alien fleet split into two distinct groups. One faction continued its relentless assault on Earth, while the other withdrew slightly, forming a defensive perimeter around the planet. It soon became clear that a conflict had erupted among the invaders. Rogue elements within the Concordance pushed for immediate extermination, accusing the Arbiter of weakness. Others argued for restraint, urging their comrades to reconsider their stance. The disagreement escalated into open warfare, with ships firing upon each other in dazzling displays of light and energy. Elena seized the opportunity. With the alien forces distracted, she redirected the remaining satellites to amplify the neural network signal. She poured every ounce of Earth's history, culture, and resilience into the transmission, hoping to sway those who doubted humanity's worth. Images of art, acts of kindness, scientific breakthroughs, and moments of unity flooded the link, creating a tapestry of human achievement and struggle. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. The faction advocating for restraint gained ground, overpowering their aggressive counterparts. Ships loyal to the Arbiter positioned themselves between Earth and the hostile vessels, shielding the planet from further destruction. Though the fighting continued, the immediate threat to humanity diminished. Exhausted but determined, Elena maintained the connection, ensuring the flow of information never ceased. She knew this was their only chance to prove that humanity deserved redemption. As the hours dragged on, she whispered prayers to whoever might listen, hoping against hope that her efforts wouldn't be in vain. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Arbiter spoke once more. Its voice was softer this time, tinged with uncertainty. "Prove us wrong," it said simply. Before severing the connection, the alien fleet began retreating, breaking off their attack and vanishing into the depths of space. Below, the survivors of Earth emerged from the ruins, battered but alive. Smoke filled the air, fires still burned, and the scars of battle stretched across the landscape. Yet amidst the devastation, there was a glimmer of hope, a fragile promise that humanity might yet find a way to rebuild. Elena slumped into her chair, tears streaming down her face. They had survived for now, but the cost had been unimaginable, and the road ahead would be long and difficult. Still, she clung to the belief that even in the darkest times, people were capable of growth, change, and renewal. As the ISS-2 drifted silently above the wounded planet, Elena vowed to dedicate her life to ensuring that humanity honored the second chance it had been given. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The days that followed the alien fleet's retreat were filled with both relief and sorrow. Earth had survived, but barely. The scars of battle stretched across the planet, from shattered cities to scorched landscapes. Billions had perished in the conflict, leaving behind grieving families and communities struggling to pick up the pieces. The air was thick with smoke, ash, and the weight of loss. Yet amidst the devastation, there were moments of quiet resilience, people helping one another, sharing what little they had left, and finding ways to rebuild. Dr. Elena Vasquez returned to Earth. After weeks aboard the ISS-2, her body ached from exhaustion, and her mind was heavy with the burden of what she had witnessed. She knew that humanity's survival wasn't just a victory. It was a responsibility. The Arbiter's final words echoed in her thoughts. "Prove us wrong." Those three simple words carried immense weight. They were a challenge, a warning, and perhaps even an opportunity. Elena landed in Geneva, where the remnants of the Global Council had regrouped. The once bustling headquarters now felt hollow, its walls bearing the marks of hurried evacuations and frantic meetings. Survivors milled about, their faces etched with fatigue and determination. General Marcus Kane, leader of the military faction, stood at the center of the room, his uniform stained with dirt and sweat. For all his bravado during the crisis, he now looked weary, as though the enormity of what had happened was finally sinking in. "We're alive," Kane said gruffly, addressing the gathered group. "But we can't afford to lower our guard. They might come back." Elena shook her head, stepping forward to face him. "No, General," she replied firmly. "If we want to honor what we've been given a second chance, we need to focus on rebuilding, not preparing for war." The Concordance didn't leave because we fought them off. They left because they saw something worth saving. Kane scowled but didn't argue further. He knew she was right, even if he hated admitting it. The activation of Project Phoenix had nearly doomed humanity, provoking the very destruction it sought to prevent. Without Elena's efforts to connect with the Arbiter through the neural network, Earth might have been wiped out entirely. Still, old habits died hard, and Kane couldn't shake the belief that strength came from weapons. Not words. As discussions continued, Elena proposed a plan to unite humanity under a single purpose, proving to the Galactic Concordance and to themselves that they could change. It would require cooperation on a scale never seen before, transcending borders, ideologies, and personal interests. Nations would need to share resources, technology, and knowledge. Communities would need to work together to heal the wounds inflicted not just by the alien attack, but by centuries of neglect and division. Her vision resonated with many, especially those who had lost loved ones in the conflict. Leaders from around the world began drafting agreements aimed at fostering global unity. Renewable energy projects replaced fossil fuels, forests were replanted, and efforts to clean polluted rivers and oceans gained momentum. Schools reopened, teaching children not just academics, but also empathy, sustainability, and the importance of working together. Slowly but surely, humanity began to take its first steps toward redemption. Yet not everyone embraced this newfound spirit of cooperation. In the shadows, rogue factions emerged, groups disillusioned by the losses suffered during the invasion. Some believed that humanity should focus on revenge rather than reconciliation, vowing to develop even more advanced weapons in case the aliens returned. Others rejected the idea of global unity altogether, arguing that individual nations should prioritize their own survival over collective progress. One such group, calling itself the Iron Vanguard, proved particularly dangerous. Led by a charismatic former soldier named Victor Radek, the Iron Vanguard operated in secret, amassing weapons and recruiting followers disillusioned by the Council's policies. Radek viewed Elena's vision of peace as naive and dangerous, claiming that humanity's only hope lay in becoming stronger than its enemies. His rhetoric struck a chord with many who felt abandoned by the new world order. Elena knew about the Iron Vanguard's activities, but chose to focus on positive change rather than dwell on threats. She trusted that the majority of humanity wanted peace, and that those clinging to fear and hatred would eventually fade away. Still, she couldn't ignore the danger they posed. If left unchecked, the Iron Vanguard could undermine everything she and others had worked so hard to achieve. Meanwhile, scientists continued studying the data collected during the alien encounter. Through the neural network, they had gained unprecedented insights into the Galactic Concordance's society and motivations. What they discovered was both humbling and sobering. The Concordance wasn't a monolithic entity, but a coalition of diverse species, each contributing unique perspectives and skills. Some factions within the coalition had argued passionately against destroying Earth, believing that every species deserved a chance to evolve. Others had been more pragmatic, viewing humanity as a risk that couldn't be ignored. This internal conflict explained why the fleet had split during the final battle. The Arbiter's hesitation and eventual decision to withdraw had likely saved humanity. But it also raised questions about the future. Would the Concordance return? And if so, how would they judge humanity's progress? To address these uncertainties, Elena spearheaded the creation of the Interstellar Outreach Initiative, IOI. Its mission was twofold: to monitor any signs of alien activity near Earth and to prepare for potential future contact. Using salvage technology from Project Phoenix, engineers developed probes capable of traveling beyond the solar system. These probes carried messages of peace, along with samples of human culture and achievements. intended to demonstrate humanity's growth since the invasion. The IOI quickly became a symbol of hope, inspiring millions to believe that humanity could one day join the galactic community as equals. Yet behind the scenes, tension simmered. Funding for the initiative was limited, as resources were stretched thin by reconstruction efforts. Some governments questioned whether reaching out to the stars was worth the investment when so many problems remained on Earth. Despite these challenges, Elena remained steadfast. She traveled the world, speaking to leaders, scientists, and ordinary citizens about the importance of looking beyond immediate struggles. "We've been given a rare opportunity," she told crowds gathered in makeshift auditoriums. "Not just to survive, but to thrive, to show the universe that we're capable of learning from our mistakes." Her words resonated deeply, especially among younger generations who had grown up hearing stories of the invasion. For them, the IOI represented a brighter future, a chance to explore the cosmos and forge connections with beings far different from themselves. Back in Geneva, however, trouble brewed. The Iron Vanguard launched a series of attacks targeting IOI facilities, sabotaging equipment and spreading propaganda that painted the initiative as a waste of resources. Their actions threatened to derail Elena's efforts, sowing discord and fear among the population. Determined to protect the project, Elena worked closely with intelligence agencies to track down Radic and his followers. It wasn't easy. The Iron Vanguard operated in secrecy, striking quickly and disappearing without a trace. But Elena refused to give up. She believed that exposing their motives would weaken their influence, showing the world that clinging to hatred and violence only perpetuated the cycle of destruction. One night, while reviewing surveillance footage, Elena noticed a pattern in the Vanguard's movements. Each attack seemed to originate from a remote region in Eastern Europe, where dense forests provided cover for their operations. With the help of allies within the military, she organized a covert mission to locate and dismantle their base. The operation was risky, requiring stealth and precision. Elena insisted on accompanying the team, unwilling to stay behind while others risked their lives for her cause. As they approached the heavily fortified compound, she felt a mix of fear and resolve. This wasn't just about stopping the Iron Vanguard. It was about proving that humanity could confront its darker impulses without resorting to violence. When the team breached the facility, they found Radic waiting for them. He stood calmly in the center of the room, surrounded by armed guards. "You think you're saving humanity?" he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "All you're doing is delaying the inevitable. When they come back, they'll finish what they started." Elena stepped forward, meeting his gaze. "Maybe," she admitted. "But until then, we'll keep trying. We'll keep building, learning, and growing. Because that's what makes us human, not our flaws, but our ability to rise above them." For a moment, Radic hesitated, as if unsure how to respond. Then, with a bitter laugh, he signaled his men to stand down. The confrontation ended without bloodshed, though Radic's fate remained uncertain. Some whispered that he had gone into hiding, plotting his next move. Others claimed he had disappeared entirely, vanishing like a ghost dot as news of the raid spread. Support for the IOI surged. People rallied behind Elena's vision, seeing it as a testament to humanity's resilience and determination. Even skeptics began to acknowledge that reaching for the stars wasn't just a dream, it was a necessity. In the months that followed, the IOI made significant progress. Years passed since the alien fleet's retreat, and Earth began to heal. The scars of the invasion still lingered. Ruined cities stood as grim reminders, and the stories of loss were told and retold. But humanity had started to rebuild. Slowly, life returned to a semblance of normalcy. People worked together in ways they never had before, driven by a shared purpose, to prove that they deserved the second chance they'd been given. Dr. Elena, Vasquez became a symbol of hope for millions. Her name was spoken with reverence, her face appearing on posters and murals alongside messages of unity and resilience. She continued to lead the Interstellar Outreach Initiative, IOI, tirelessly overseeing its efforts to reach out to the stars. Probes launched into deep space carried fragments of human culture, music, art, literature, and scientific achievements, all carefully curated to show what humanity could create when it chose cooperation over conflict. But even as progress was made, challenges remained. Resources were stretched thin, and disagreements over priorities sometimes threatened to undo the fragile unity that had formed after the invasion. Some nations argued that too much focus was being placed on interstellar communication, while others believed that preparing for another alien attack should take precedence. Despite these tensions, Elena refused to let fear or division derail humanity's path forward. One evening, as she sat alone in her office at the IOI headquarters, Elena received an unexpected alert. A probe launched months earlier had detected something unusual, a faint signal emanating from a distant star system. It wasn't random noise. The pattern suggested deliberate communication. Her heart raced as she analyzed the data. Could it be the Galactic Concordance? Or perhaps another civilization entirely? She quickly assembled her team to examine the findings. Together, they decoded the transmission, piecing together fragments of information. The message was brief but unmistakable. "We are watching." There was no mention of who we were or what they intended, but the implications were clear. Humanity was still under observation. Elena debated how to respond. Should she send a reply, risking exposure if the observers turned out to be hostile? Or should she remain silent, hoping to gather more information first? After much deliberation, she decided to act cautiously. Using the same technology that had connected them to the Concordance during the invasion, she crafted a simple message. "We are learning. We are growing. We are here." The response came days later, though it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of words, the signal contained images snapshots of Earth taken from space. They showed forests regrowing, rivers flowing clean again, and cities rising from the ashes. These weren't recent photos. They dated back months, even years. Whoever was watching had been documenting humanity's recovery all along. Elena felt a surge of emotion as she studied the images. It was proof that their efforts hadn't gone unnoticed. Someone or something was acknowledging humanity's progress. But why? And what did it mean for the future? Speculation ran rampant within the IOI. Some believed the observers were members of the Galactic Concordance, keeping tabs on Earth to ensure compliance. Others thought it might be a different species altogether, curious about humanity's story. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain: humanity couldn't afford to become complacent. The stakes were higher than ever. As word of the discovery spread, public sentiment shifted. Fear gave way to determination. People rallied behind the idea that their actions mattered, not just for themselves, but for the entire galaxy. Communities redoubled their efforts to protect the environment, resolve conflicts peacefully, and support one another. Even skeptics who had once dismissed the IOI as a waste of resources now saw its value. Elena traveled the world, sharing updates and encouraging people to stay committed to the cause. She spoke not just as a scientist, but as a representative of humanity's collective will. "This isn't just about us," she often said. "It's about showing the universe that we're capable of change, that we can rise above our flaws and build something worth preserving." Her words inspired countless individuals, including a young engineer named Malik Patel. He had grown up hearing stories of the invasion and idolized Elena for her role in saving humanity. Now, working as part of the IOI's technical team, he dedicated himself to improving the neural network that had once connected Earth to the Concordance. His dream was to expand its capabilities, allowing humanity to communicate not just with one alien species, but with many. Under Malik's leadership, the IOI developed a new system called the Universal Interface. Unlike its predecessor, which relied on direct connections to alien consciousness, this version used quantum entanglement to transmit messages across vast distances instantly. It was a monumental achievement, one that opened the door to true interstellar dialogue. When the Universal Interface was activated for the first time, Elena held her breath. She knew this moment could define humanity's place in the cosmos. The signal broadcasted a single phrase: "We are ready." Hours passed without a response. Just as doubt began to creep in, the monitors lit up with activity. A flood of data streamed in, overwhelming the system. Images, sounds, and symbols filled the screens, each representing a piece of alien culture. Humanity wasn't just being watched, it was being welcomed. Tears streamed down Elena's face as she realized the significance of what was happening. This wasn't judgment or condemnation. It was acceptance. The Galactic Concordance, or whoever had been observing Earth, saw potential in humanity. They believed in its ability to contribute positively to the galaxy. Over the following weeks, communication between Earth and the alien coalition grew stronger. Through careful study, scientists learned to interpret the incoming data, uncovering insights into alien languages, customs, and values. In return, humanity shared its own history, art, and innovations, creating a bridge of understanding that spanned light years. Yet not everyone celebrated the breakthrough. The Iron Vanguard, though weakened, still existed in secret. Victor Radek, now older and more embittered, viewed the newfound connection with suspicion. To him, it was a sign of weakness, a betrayal of humanity's independence. He began spreading rumors that the aliens would exploit Earth's openness, using it as an opportunity to conquer rather than cooperate. His warnings found an audience among those who feared change. Riots broke out in several cities, fueled by paranoia and misinformation. The IOI's facilities came under attack once again, forcing Elena to divert resources to protect both the project and its personnel. Despite these setbacks, Elena remained resolute. She addressed the public directly, appealing for calm and trust. "Fear is natural," she said during a live broadcast, "but it cannot guide our decisions. We've come too far to turn back now. Let's embrace this moment, not as victims, but as equals." Her words struck a chord, rallying supporters and silencing critics. Security measures were tightened, but the IOI's work continued uninterrupted. With each passing day, humanity's bond with the alien coalition grew stronger, laying the foundation for a partnership unlike anything Earth had ever known. In time, the scars of the past began to fade. Ruined cities transformed into vibrant hubs of innovation and creativity. Forests flourished, oceans teemed with life, and skies cleared of pollution. People looked to the stars not with dread, but with wonder, eager to explore the possibilities that lay beyond. Elena stood on a hill overlooking Geneva one evening, watching the sunset paint the horizon in hues of orange and pink. Behind her, construction crews worked tirelessly to build a monument commemorating humanity's journey, the struggles, sacrifices, and triumphs that had brought them to this point. At its center stood a replica of the Universal Interface, a testament to the power of connection and understanding. As she gazed upward, Elena felt a profound sense of peace. Humanity had proven itself worthy, not through strength or aggression, but through growth and perseverance. The road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, filled with uncertainties and obstacles. But for the first time in history, humanity wasn't walking that road alone. "We'll keep moving forward," she whispered to herself, smiling softly. "Together." And with that, she turned back toward the city, ready to face whatever came next.